I do want to get a bit of this scene because it's part of this. This is a creative piece, but it's also I'm just going to make a quick note in the chat here, just in case the description is not noticed. Plus, I didn't put it there. And that little bit you may have heard at the beginning, although it was a very, very little bit. I had thought that video that I was previously watching was just finishing, and that it was just a little bit of like, albeit it could have been copyrighted music and birds, but then he was saying a bit more, which I'll have to look at later. What am I putting here again? All right. This is, okay, emphasizing this is sort of a scenery set and at once creative and real and deep. Okay, so I was just putting a little bit of actually two lines, once it's sent through, in the corner in the chat there, wherever you see it. There is a description. You can glance at it at points or all at once. And I'm going to jump right into this. But what I'm about to show on screen, I felt like it was worthwhile, necessary to, as we get two viewers, welcome, curious where you're watching from, to put the little two lines in the side of chat, and you both left, so whatever. And I don't know if it highlights. It'll show. It's all good. It highlights the G and C, and I think that's to differentiate mine from other people's, so that I don't have to take that to read them, because I know what I said, essentially. But sometimes it's good to hear back what we say. It's kind of good to look back at what we do in life, what we've lived. Kind of feels like that. And this is on no substance except a little bit of cannabis oil in my coffee. This is life. This is about life right here. I'm actually going to grab the other device that was left here because, well, I don't know. If she's off today, it might be worthwhile for her to see this. If this thing connects properly. And that's kind of the big thing about it. I don't want to toggle too much, but I might a little bit. I kind of wish that comment looked a little bit I mean, maybe it stands out more to you than it stands out to me. I mean, I've got the big, video image bigger than the chat. It might be more half and half in what you see, or what I see afterwards, for that matter. And it might be it depends what type of device you're using as well. Things have been lagging ever so slightly, but I hope that you'll find that it's not too disruptive. I hope that if there's, well, I'm not going to say that part because there's nobody here right now, but just going to grab these in case I want them. I know I keep getting up. Do I want light? Would I find it too sensitive? Natural light. Nature, when you can't get in nature as easily. Whether that's because of a physical difficulty in getting there, which I don't exactly have. The weather, maybe you're sensitive to the fact that it's too hot. Maybe it's raining. Or the smoke in the air. Maybe it wouldn't do as much for you as an upstairs is, but it's less comfortable and more stuffy. And it's hard to get the air flowing. As the nature that you have within, the nature that you may have in plants in your home, imagery that you can look at. Um, doesn't say. Anonymous? Doesn't say anywhere I would see it. They say sometimes that these are hidden. It does not say. Okay, so I'll talk about that in a moment. I'm just trying to orient myself because, and I've utilized some of it when for those that see afterwards, because there's nobody here right now, when I that's not please know, and hopefully you'll stay to hear this. Not that there's anybody here at the moment, but it's only been rolling for a few moments. And there's a lot of stuff on YouTube, as I often say and remind myself as well of. Please know that when I looked at my phone and when I touched my eye, I thought that 0 became a 1. It should have. Should have became 100. No. But this is the thing. Like the live chat, I don't want it to distract me, but it is important to me. It is important, and you're important. Okay? And that's something I'd like to quote, perhaps. I do want to keep this in this scenery. So even if it's a little bit chaotic looking, it's also very artsy looking, right? It's also very, yeah. But, and I think, whoops, just a moment here. Well, if I don't put the word in, it doesn't count. We do have a viewer here. Now, I was just about to say that you left or whatever. I'll just quickly say this because it feels quicker than typing it, even though I'm going to be using my voice in the video. I've been rolling for about 8 minutes. Nobody's there right now. I am very curious, and I don't know why there's a mic showing. I don't think I'll need one in the video showing next to your clip. I'm very curious to play it, and it just happened to come in as I'm rolling. I'm very curious to play it. Maybe when I go upstairs briefly, I will. But yes, if you're able to come and yeah, that'd be great. Okay, so mostly, I mean, I have ADHD. I am a free spirit, okay? But earlier when I was looking at my phone, I want to make sure that I expressed in that instance, and the viewer left. But for anybody that sees this afterwards, I want to express that was actually me trying to stay on task. See, people can multitask, especially if you have ADHD. So if, I know sometimes it's the older generation, sometimes it's just certain individuals. They may say that they're a dreamer, but they're not the only one. No, they may say that if one is looking at their device, they're not paying attention. Meanwhile, they could actually be multitasking and pretty good at dividing their attention. I saw someone, as a lot of us do these days, and a lot of us are these people, just the other day, that I'm going to have to make sure that I address this before it washes off. But I saw someone just the other day walking down a lane and looking at their phone. We all do it. Sometimes we just need to write out a thought that's in our head, and it's not that much different than taking out a pen and a paper. We're still not looking. sometimes I think, unless they're in the middle of the road or whatever, and that which is kind of interesting, sort of because of this topic. But sometimes I think that just like in driving, you should stop if you really feel called to write something. I feel like I need a bit of background noise, by the way, just a little bit. Take your time with it. Radio was actually off. RRs. Okay, you still got that, I hope, Sonny? And if not, I hope you'll be good. Yesterday, he didn't require one at all. He just let me do my phone calls, let me do my podcast, and he wasn't disruptive. I don't think the radio is that loud, and I think I'm louder. I hope that any time that I trail off of a thought, yeah, he's just laying there with my hip at the dog, that you will realize either what I'm trying to say or that you heard what you need to from it, or that I might come back around to it. There was somebody briefly there, and they're like, I don't realize what you're trying to say. No, just kidding. But either came back, somebody else here. So welcome. Here's where you're watching from. I'm going to try and focus, but at the same time, this is free-spirited and organic as I am. But no, what I was going to say is that what looked like I was just not paying attention for a few seconds to the podcast, well, I'm likely to do the exact same thing, shortly. So I'll wait till there's somebody here to explain this to. At the same time, this is deep, this is powerful. Gosh. There will likely be people that see this after it's posted. And they may just be people that wouldn't be patient enough or think to or choose to skip ahead after it's posted. I don't entirely know what I'm saying, but I know that it's hard to wait. I know that it's hard to wait and it's hard to be patient. And so and I know that I've had to struggle with that in my life, and a lot of us probably have. And so maybe it's this, folks. Maybe it's this. I don't want to make myself wait. I don't want to make myself. I want to be, hopefully, never miss. Never being seen as this being a negative thing. I want to acknowledge whether you say something or not when there's somebody here. Maybe that doesn't make my videos look great, but I think that there's lots of stuff in them that does, in my humble opinion, if I do say so. And that's at the moment a healthy ego, self-esteem, that kind of thing, right? And okay. And I know the dog's being good. I'm hoping I can do this from here. I didn't know that was a name. Yeah, that's right. Lay there and be good. You ate that thing really fast. Like you what you see, sorry. Oh. And I'm leaning on this table, and the table's almost tipped. I'll come to the table. And sometimes, yeah, there was another phrase that I was going to say, but I can't think of what it was. But no, so, I mean, I value everybody that's here, and two people just came in at once, and sometimes that happens, not as often as you think, all at the same time. But anyway, welcome. So this is very free-flowing. I hope that the right people will see it. And, here's the thing. Every now and then I have moments. It's not that in general what I say isn't worthwhile, but every now and then I have moments where I feel like somebody's especially meant to hear this, or at least I'd like them to. Particular particular thing being said. Um, so this may be a two-parter. We'll see. It's actually fairly early here, earlier than I thought it was. Well, 5 to 9. Okay. 9 to 5. This is my 9 to 5. This is my job. This is, I may not be getting paid for it, but as the description says, sometimes we have to look at Earth as our employer. It pays us in cleanish air, water, land, not always equally, not all the time. And it's very interesting because this video is about healing, and the viewer like, who are you telling me if it's very interesting? I make these little side comments when it happens, and they may or may not be accurate, and it's not necessarily what's said. But, if it's the first thing that comes to my mind, it might be the first thing that comes to other people's minds, because as much as everybody is unique, we have a lot of similarities as humans. As much as we're unique, and that's great. I'm a little bit worried. Can you hear the radio in the background as I speak? See, the thing is, when I'm not speaking, the short gaps when I'm not, you might, and YouTube won't like that. I just felt like I needed a bit of background music, and I didn't really want it to be sleep music, the music that I fall asleep to. I listened to that, I had that playing while I was sleeping. I just woke up recently. So I do appreciate your patience. What this video is about is, aside from what the title says in the viewer, I had the title idea. I had some of the items. I came to YouTube today and I didn't quite follow my own advice. And sometimes I don't, sometimes I do. And that's something else I think is deeply human. Most of us want to help people and we can give advice. And sometimes we follow our own advice and sometimes we don't, right? Before I forget, I also just want to make quick mention. So this is not, that was because of what I saw at the top, and also just because I'm trying to think and express and make the two work together. And it's amazing because sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And there was something I said, and I wish somebody was here hearing this. There was something I said in the description that that kind of near the bottom of it, that kind of sounded like that. We never know. See, this is, and I know one person specifically that has mentioned to me before, not strongly about, and not necessarily specific to YouTube, but maybe a little bit, about being organized and precise, but also appreciating the free-spiritedness, whether it's a meditation or otherwise. And you have to have that in life, folks. I don't really care who you are, as far as if you think of yourself as a free spirit or not. Because another way to put it could be going with the flow. And as long as the flow, we make the flow positive and enriching, for self and others, I kind of think you can't go wrong. Now, that's the thing I will say, though, is that the deep could potentially seem negative sometimes and even feel negative. Like, there's only so many feelings, and we've all had them. But there are some things that some of us have had that some of us haven't. And then vent. But this isn't venting. But this all makes me think of the title that I woke up. I didn't bring everything this morning. I could have given myself a bit more time to sleep. I looked at a message. It started sparking things on inside me, so to speak. and I just couldn't get, and I the sun it's fairly sunny out today, and the routine, even though now I'm home with tons of time, our morning routine, which I do love and appreciate, meant that I wasn't going to have a lot more opportunity to get more sleep. But I think that I slept pretty good for just after going with the flow, whatever. There was somebody there for about, I mean, this is no different than any other time when I'm podcasting with the AC on. So, no, I should be being heard okay without a mic. And if not, then whatever I can hear. Whatever you can hear. Maybe they'll be the same. Maybe they won't be. I could do a sound check, but like I say, it's no different than any other time. So unless there's an issue with YouTube's mic, this should be working. I mean, even talking loud, it's hard to get to that middle volume dot. But yeah, like I say, as far as I know, this is working. So I'm rolling with it. I sometimes talk about how I need my water at a certain temperature so that one, I don't mind drinking it, and two, it's not too cold for my teeth and my gums, which it can be sensitive sometimes. More to cold than to hot, I think I've noticed, but obviously, if anything is too hot, and I don't mean spicy, then it is a bit, hard on the mouth. Most of those texture maybe a little bit, but that's also connected to like ARFID and autism stuff. Well, personal preference too, So, and it's weird because I thought that I had them balanced, and then I looked and it's like, well, there's more in the like really, really cold one than the other one. And it's like, did I do them backwards? It was, yeah. Anyway, it was a whole thing. No, not really. It was just that. But anyway, nobody's here at the moment, and I just need to cover the screen for a moment. Okay. Now I need a drink. I will say that it's hard, though. It is hard. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not. Okay? Like, we all know this. Some of us know it more than others. I'll say that much so. That, the way that life unfolds sometimes, like I say, it's hard. It can feel not fair, not right. And sometimes it is unfair, not right. Yes, this kind of feels like that. And it wasn't entirely intended. It kind of was. It kind of feels like that improvised thing I did a while ago that actually I kind of re-noticed not long ago, too, when I was looking for another video. But, and I some people may say they think certain things, and I don't know about otherwise, but I'm not on any substances other than a little bit of CBD oil for medicinal purposes. No more than usual. Like, I feel my normal self pretty much. I will say, for me, gummies and gel caps, they kind of give me a bit of a trip or a vacation, which, again, before I forget. So, we just happen to have someone tune in, and this does happen to be one of the potentially briefly deeper parts of this video that I'm discovering even myself. I've been meaning to mention this a couple times. Again, deep can be healing. So sometimes we should sit and experience it, right? I wrote on my arm. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say that tattoos are self-harm. I don't have any, by the way. People would say it's body modification, and people have opinions about that. But that's not what I'm saying. And somebody left. That's not what I'm saying. I don't have any. I don't have any. Every now and then, and I used to do it more when I was younger. I'm not sure what about my life stopped me doing it. It certainly wasn't worry about ink poisoning. I used to make a lot of random notes too. I mean, I still do kind of digitally sometimes, but I don't do. I've started to again a little bit. Anywho, I don't know if the person that's currently watching, this is only 25 minutes in, has ever written on yourself. I would not. I would say that that is better in the person left. They're like, no, that's weird. Is it though? Is it though? Sometimes you may not have a plain piece of paper handy, or you worry about losing it, or you, um, or you just want something more like standoutish that you'll remember. You know, like I say, that's on you, right? And so, but you know, unless it's a permanent marker, you know, it doesn't stay there, right? I know that back when I was young, there was a couple of my cousins, they were sisters, and I can't remember if anybody else also liked to write on their clothing. And then, of course, there's like bejeweled stuff. But anywho, I would say that that is a better way to you know, I was talking with someone the other day about a certain type of career / volunteer opportunity, and I was slightly surprised. I don't know why. Maybe because I'm not gotten to that point pretty much, but I was slightly surprised when he said that, you know, sometimes sometimes when we touch the honesty is too much. I don't know, for some reason the word sometimes made me think of that this time, but not all times. No, it just very, very randomly as I can be. Anywho, again, I don't know if the person that just tuned in was here when I said this a few minutes ago. This is going to be briefly deep, and then it'll get lighthearted, and then it'll be deep, and then it'll be lighthearted. And that's not mood swings. That's just going with the flow of life, you know. And my experience, and this is getting a lot of lotion on it, soaking in a lot of lotion from my hand. Anywho, and he said, "Well, it's hard, and you have to know whether to kind of push it or I can't remember his exact wording, but when somebody was talking about stuff hard, some people get that, and this is a program for people who feel isolated, who feel therefore lonely at times. Again, a lot of us do, but some more than others. And also, I think that we should all remember that sometimes we need that time. We need those moments, and some people don't get them very often in their life. Some people get them too much. Or there's an imbalance, and that's where it can be risky. I realize saying it that way actually kind of has a different context. But anywho, so he was saying that, you know, that sometimes, you know, somebody's like that, and because it's not a crisis line, I wouldn't actually have guessed that. And I wish sometimes in life we could be given the amount of clarity that we need to feel content. That's lyrical, isn't it? I'm going to repeat it because somebody just tuned in. Sometimes I wish that we were given the amount of clarity that we need to feel content. Do you relate to that? How do you relate to that? Whether you have ADHD or not, I encourage you not to leave, but you did. Should I finish my thought? Sure, because again, people will see this afterwards. To answer that in the comments, I'd be very curious. And, you know, actually, and I don't know if I'm a big real keen on this, but while live, but also otherwise, you can also pause, or you can be free spirit, very organic, and let this play while you're commenting. And it's already been 30 minutes. Well, and if something distracts you and it works its way into the comment, whether it, I would think, be my video, but something else that popped up. And as I'm writing this, I just got a message from a friend, and blah blah and blah 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 blah. Whatever. Um, that is kind of a segue to this. And again, for people that see this afterwards, I wrote this before I started this video, and this is what I was looking at on the phone earlier, and meaning to say I'm not getting distracted. This has to do with the video. I don't know. In the live chat, and somebody just tuned in, welcome. Only one here at the moment. In the live chat, any of y'all can comment, based on what you're hearing, and I'm great with that. I guess this is more of a, and I kind of want to say it when there's somebody here engaged, there's somebody here and somebody here engaging, or at least somebody here who's staying around and processing and listening, and obviously getting something from this, who might decide to say something later, or who already is saying some things and might want to say more. I'm going to wait on this, but I do want to make sure that I remember and not just think that it's my phone laying on the couch. So I'm leaning it on something. It's like I'm leaning it on my leg the other day. I am a little bit warm. I'm going to take this off. Is it time for a costume change? I don't think so, though. And it's not really a costume, but it's the things that we pick up in life. So I'm going to try and be focused for a moment. I don't necessarily want to change the view, but at the moment, I don't know if it's really much of one, to be honest. But I just want to kind of explain and process some of the stuff. I don't hugely feel crowded. I'm kind of used to having the stuff around, and it's not falling on me. But that's another topic. And because of, if I remember, scene change. So, how did this video come to be? You may ask yourself, or you may not, but I'm going to tell you anyway, and I hope that you'll be here to hear it. Some of you will know, some of you will not, that I did a very short video a few days ago. I did a song called this the other day, inspired by our old-fashioned neighbor reading newspaper. But anyway, I did a very short video, and I actually, you should tell her that she inspired me doing this song. But I did a short video about some potentially good news. And because of, in recent years, some life experiences, I did tell myself when I, either I think before I told the other person in the home, and maybe a couple times afterwards, and that's nothing to do with the vibration I'm at. It's just honesty. It's just reality. I told myself, am I getting excited too soon? Because I don't know yet, but I do know that I knew somebody, that worked at a place that I recently discovered in my area that I felt called towards for employment, volunteering, who knows what else. And the video was there for like 2 minutes. But anyway, at least they were there for 2 minutes. And basically, so I reached out to her. And I had to wait a couple of days, which it was on and off on my mind. I know for a bit of the other afternoon after talking, it being one of the things I talked about with somebody, it kind of was. And then late last night, a little bit before bed, but it honestly didn't keep me awake. I got a message. I think it was partly saying that she was there part-time. Contact the owner. She says that she hardly ever checks her messages. Meanwhile, she's been pretty quick with most. In the second one too, especially. Yeah, I know. Okay. In other words, she's saying that she's not the owner. That I should contact them directly. So knowing her, I guess as an acquaintance, is true, may not be help as a foot in the door. That was the first thing. I don't know if it's a place that only works with kids. I mean, I was saying to someone the other day, some kids are easy to be around, and others drive you nuts. I don't know if he relates to that, but maybe he's got a lot of kids in his family and knows a lot of people with kids, and he's not as sensitive to that. I mean, I am and I'm not, but anyway. But I know a lot of people will probably agree with it. That she's part-time and there are other therapists working in the building. Well, yeah, I realized that, and I saw the offices. And then this morning I woke up to, she said that a friend of hers was asking about her daughter getting an internship at this place, and one needs to have a master's equivalent was actually how it was said, of education. This is coming from someone who is from another country, but's been in where I live about as long as I have, maybe a couple of years less, but more than 10. I mean, everybody has their way of communicating, and I'm not meaning to be mean, to this person, right? But, and there was some other like 2 minutes, but it's interesting because, okay. But anyway, basically, but that is something I wanted to also mention. I part of me wants to do things very sequential, and then there's been a couple of times where I've started something, it kind of veered. I either do or almost come back around to it. I've noticed it about 3 or 4 times within this. It somewhat annoys me, but I'm used to the way my brain is. And I know I'm not the only one, and so hopefully you'll be understanding. But I do want to remember this because it's only caught my eye a couple of times in this 37 minutes, and it's starting to fade. What this is, so, I kind of talked a little bit about this topic earlier, but one of the things I found myself doing within the first hour-ish that I was awake was writing something on my arm. I looked outside, not to be super specific, but kind of, and there was a big white, and the viewer left just before big, or at big. They're like, I don't like small things. No, just kidding. I mean, sometimes it's fine to laugh it off. Or but anyway, a big white, I don't think it was they make those SUV limos. I don't think it was that, but it sure looked like that. And it reminded me of something. Hummers remind me of somebody. Jeep remind me of somebody, and that reminds me of somebody. Basically, a friend and a bunch of her soul sisters. I met them one weekend, and they were traveling together in a very similar vehicle, although it was a different color. And I guess I could say it's like the one my mother and my step used to have, but it looks bigger than that, the vehicle. But maybe I'm wrong. Either way, it kind of makes me think tour bus. I should be going on tour, I feel like. I don't know. And it reminded me of, maybe it's because I've been kind of detached from my mother and my step because of toxicity. Not entirely, but mostly. Certainly my step. Or I don't know, but that was 2 or 3 months ago already? Let me think here. February 9th. At least a couple months, maybe almost 3. Time flies. There was somebody there for a couple minutes, whatever. Anywho, and I guess it stood out to me because, yes, whether it's musical, motivational speaking, whatever, I'd like to be going on tour. I don't drive, and I don't really get opportunity to travel very much. But also it reminded me of, out of those people, somebody really great that I've met. And whether I tell it to her in the meeting tonight or she hears it here first, I know that you won't judge me for it, and we shouldn't judge anybody for it, and we should respect whatever their choices are and where it takes them in life, even if it feels like it doesn't take them anywhere or anywhere anymore, whatever it is. But yeah, I'm hesitant because she has been, it's the kind of person she is. She's just very helpful. She kind of has a coaching type of spirit, a little bit of that background, kind of in a particular modality, but kind of in general. Although she also struggles with ADHD and feelings of overwhelm as well. But she said, that's good because I started to read that last night and then got distracted when I did that podcast. Authentic? No, I don't. Let's say. Okay. She said, or basically, but the truth of the matter is, long before I knew her, and still occasionally sometimes, and sometimes often, I feel like this world is no longer meant for me. The universe isn't and works against me sometimes. It's not entirely true, and it isn't for any of us. But I do feel that, in all honesty. Back to this message for a moment, because in case something else pops in. Otherwise, insurance won't cover the clients. Never would have thought it was something you had to be insured for. I am and am not surprised that they say you need special education for it. I mean, I was in special ed. I have finished high school, which some people see as a great accomplishment, I guess because they either themselves or people they know haven't. And I've been living in this thing called life. I wish that I could remember yeah, and she's saying even that there's different requirements. So it's not like she was saying this is an easy alternative. But then again, what's easy for one person, what's easy, and I quoted this song a little bit the other day, what's easy for you might for them be very hard. Even though to you it seems I barely crossed a star, I know I've come so far. She doesn't know much, but she says, but she's not inaccurate in what she's saying, unfortunately, I believe. And if I've turned out to be wrong about this, or eventually get there, I just hope that this is making an impact for somebody else. I'm trying to do things in sequential order, folks. I'm trying to. Is it connecting and then it flashed? No, it's like again. That's the other thing. I don't know if I should say it in the chat, because if somebody accidentally clicks in, they might look at that. Or even, I don't know if you have to click. Yeah, you would have to click in. You are meant to tune in when you do. Don't worry about what you missed. You can miss in this. You can watch that later, or if meant to be. But yes, peeps, friends, YouTube, family, you are like, what, to fold laundry over the internet? No, that's good, because now it puts something else there. It might stand out to people. And so it's true. Some people may be here for a few minutes, and I'm thinking, okay, they're processing what I'm putting down. Woohoo, yippee! But and I don't mean that sarcastically. Like I'm happy about that. And actually, either way, they might be. If they might come here and they'll either be very focused or not, and they'll look at the chat, which I have it selected to put the live chat and the summary afterwards. Kind of the middle ground. That's what it was auto-selected as, actually. It didn't have the replay. And then that's great that they can also do interns or whatever with people while they're studying, but you have to be able to get the opportunities to take the classes. And this is the, okay. So, it's hard for me to ignore certain aspects of what's transpired, unfolded this morning, or the fact that somebody was there for 2 seconds, you know. But again, all the things I say may not be personal, may not connect. They really are good reminders, almost like a mantra, you know, because I'm watching the area because I'm curious. I'm watching it because I'm hoping to see great numbers, like any other YouTube content creator. What may be a little bit unique for me, but I can't be the only one, is that I don't need the numbers to be big. I mean, if they are, great. But to me, amount of views is not as great or as, for lack of a different word, desired as whatever you're comfortable with. Likes, comments, chat, all of the above. You know, in comments is a little bit different than chat because comments could be more seen as after it's not live anymore. And I'm glad that this is working because, yeah, I have a feeling this device is still telling me that the one from last night is live. It does that sometimes. And then I'll look at it and it's like 300 hours or something like that. I'm bad at math. But anywho, so I'm trying to think. There was something about the smart. Oh, okay, right. So that was the first thing, okay? You know, it's interesting. I did a video just the other day about how to, you know, focus as a content creator, or a tip or a strategy, but not just that, you know, how to focus and avoid overwhelm online, essentially. I'm still not a master at it. And may never be. And this is the thing. I want to touch on this for a moment. I'll put on my community counseling in general shirt again for a moment here. That's what we'll call it. Because here's the thing, folks. Whether you feel like it's important that someone has a degree in counseling or life coaching or not, this is so important. Somebody tune in. I mean, a lot of it is, but this is especially, I think. And this is counseling, but kind of in general. I heard somebody else say it the other day, actually. Not because of conversation with me, but on YouTube, actually. And they said, it was a very cute video. Watch, it be Emmy that just tuned in. It was a very cute video, but also kind of annoying, you know, kind of like mine. No, just kidding. But because her and her husband, I believe that's who that was, she was really, I guess she was just trying to get him to go deeper. I thought he had said something deep. Mind, I didn't retain it. And I've seen it twice now. Not in a row, if that makes any difference. But I thought, and then she tried to get him to go deeper. But they were out somewhere and they were talking about legacy. And I have an original song and a video about that. And the image is of a guy looking like he's showing somebody how to do something. And that, folks, is what is most important. They're like, ooh, that sounds interesting. I'm going to go check that out. Because, yeah, they like. But anywho, why do I mention? I don't know. There was a reason and it made sense at the time. But I don't know now. Longest videos I think I've ever seen, and that I think some people may actually watch it, be 2 hours. So we're getting closer now. But anyway. I'm very curious about, right, okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and again, wish somebody was here to hear it, but afterwards they might be. This is the thing. I strongly know this. And why do I strongly know this? Not to sound egotistical, I know myself. Do you feel like you know yourself pretty well, out of curiosity? And the viewer like, oh, but either came back, somebody else here. I know myself. I know what I've been through. I know the head of which I have on these shoulders. And that didn't come from a degree. It didn't come from different types of, it did come from different types of education, but no, nothing on paper, a degree. And as far as like, for an example, the counseling field, this is why it came up, Emmy's video, because when somebody is given advice, whether it's from a doctor or a counselor, they should remember that they have the option to either take that suggestion and do something with it or not. I sometimes feel like people, like, when we think about people being on a handful of meds, well, the doctor told me I needed them. Maybe you do need one or two of them, but a handful of meds is never going to be healthy. They co-mix with each other. They, one or two can have side effects. I'm not here to say don't take your meds. And some things I think people need them for more than others. But there are so many holistic things, whether it's talk therapy, art therapy, music therapy, doing a hobby, which could be art or music, socializing. There are so many things that and you're never going to be a perfect person either. I'm sorry to break it to you, but I'm not, you're not, and you're never going to know everything. So like I say, I don't care if a counselor has a degree or not. They're either going to be a good match and a good person and helpful and say things I'm willing to try, or they're not. And that's the same for anybody else that, and I don't think anybody should be opposed to counseling, but I do feel like, yeah, they shouldn't be like, well, the therapist said this or the doctor said this, so I guess they're right because they're the professionals. And I'm not here to diss anybody in their profession. You may work in this profession and you may be darn good at it. When we put titles or hold with certain expectations and say that is the only qualifier, we're making a mistake as society, and I'm not blaming the two people that are watching now. One's been here for about 10 minutes and then it went to two ones. I don't know which one of you came and which one went. Don't be shy. I'm not blaming, I forget but hopefully you realize what my thought was saying there, because when I look at that message I looked at this morning, should I read what I said? Not that it's, I've never gotten that as in a degree, but also as in, why do you need one to be an art therapist? People can learn on the job, and some learn best that way. And this brings people to the point of, and I didn't say it because it's a shared device and a shared communication platform, but mine's wonky. What's the worst that could happen when happen? Someone gets paint on them. As I said in my life group, and then suddenly the device goes back online. We have two people here. Welcome. But slow to start up successful self-employment. I can't afford access, and assuming that I don't have, and not everyone has the same privileges. I hate how society is still sometimes set up this way, even in 2025 and, other recent years. I don't know what I said in the audio clips. I don't know if I should play them out. It is on a different device. It might play out well, but that's a good segue. And I'm curious, the person that we have watching, like I say, don't be shy. I have live chat only set to display during. Although sometimes when I have it set to display afterwards, it still doesn't. It's really hit and miss. But we have 2 or 3 people here, and I'm wondering where you're watching from. And I'm wondering if one of you has been here more than 10 minutes, because and then two left and one is still here. And I don't know which one is still here. But anyway, I'm glad that you're here, irregardless. Now, how sequential should I be as we get to a second bit? Welcome. How sequential should I be in this is the question. Because I've covered this, and I feel like I have actually covered this. I feel like it's important to note, whether it's for yourself or a friend or loved one. Here is a suggestion, something that I feel was brought into my awareness today that I hope will be helpful. I know it's a deep topic, okay, or a deep mention, but please hear me out. I don't fully understand why someone would self-harm, other than the fact that mental health and a hard life. What I have thought made sense is that they're already experiencing pain, they're kind of numb to it, or that maybe they feel they deserve it. And whether the two people watching have or would ever do something like that, you don't deserve it. I know I could never handle that. I also know I could never do a certain other thing, as much as I sometimes think about it. And that's what SI stands for. Ideation. It isn't as, for lack of a different word, severe, but it is still important. And it can, especially for some people who get very foggy and get very whatever, it can lead to the other. Okay? Now, So, but for those that self-harm, you don't have to go and pay and get a tattoo that you're going to have permanently on there. I never thought of people writing on their skin, like with a pen, as being self-harm. And I don't know if I still do, but I think it's a good alternative. Whether it's a reminder for yourself or something you're trying to say to the world. Because when somebody mentioned that the other day, which made me think, yes, as much as I may be coming across well here, I've retained two of you for 10, 15 minutes as I've been talking about it, now one, but whatever. I don't want to hear about people hurting themselves. I get it. But if it is something that frequently came out, if I was only matched with one or two people, and I would love, there is a part of me, not to sound selfish, because it really is about both people. There is a part of me, I suppose, that would love to say our connection kept you safe, kept you from doing that, and allowed you to grow away from those feelings. That's an interesting way to put it, eh? This is about the 5th time that I'm reminded. So in a recent video, I had said that, especially as a content creator, you come to do a video and you bring up YouTube, and maybe it's not so bad on a cell phone. You only see one or two things. I use a laptop pretty much, except for last night, and occasionally, but I mostly use a laptop. And you can see as much as 3, I think, to 6 things. And if you're curious and suggestible like me, you'll be interested in all of them. No, you'll be interested in most of them, or maybe all of them. Who knows? And so when I came to do this one, I partially slid the window down, not to see it. I still saw the top row. Somehow my eyes did not see the first one. The second one, I opened it. It's not showing on the screen right now on the tab. I have just kind of doable. Something about dreaming. The third one was Maya Angelou, I believe. And truth be told, I don't know if I should have watched this or not, but this seems to be meaning something. Now, if it's who I think it was, and I thought this in a couple of my other recent videos, and then I talked with him on the phone, and he said he hadn't seen anything super recently, but that he had a bit of spare time to do so upcoming as we get a second view. Welcome. Curious where you're watching from. But I thought, because he's spoken to me on the phone a few times, he's already familiar with me. So he would stick around. I would hope even if you weren't familiar with me, you'd stick around, get familiar, and be happy that you did. Stick around and get familiar. But so it was about growing in silence or something like that. I can't remember the exact details, and I haven't watched it yet. I had intended to, and then I lost the tab because of how many I have open, and this is in the one that is a bit more condensed. It's mostly the other person in the house is on the shared devices. I have a few in there. Some of a lot of them are photos that I would love to be able to incorporate in upcoming videos. He's never done it in a live stream. I mean, of course, you could show the device, but not if I'm recording on that device. And I've never done it in a live stream. I know how to do the thumbnails now, and yeah, it was a little bit generic. I almost didn't have one, to be honest. But as I was looking through the tabs, I came across where I was searching for ones in a previous one about triggers and managing them and that comes up occasionally. And I thought there was one I decided I didn't need anymore. So I reused that one, found this, and, you know, as Emmy and others, including myself, would say, the past is important. It shapes you. Sometimes you can't hold on to it too strongly, certain things, but it's important and we shouldn't forget it. The present is important, but ever changing. And the future is uncertain, but your future is important. So I think the first video I clicked, what I think I did was I found my way back to that tab. I was, trying to see if I could close anything to put one live or whatever, because I already couldn't see two of these that I opened, in view on the smaller screen. And then I watched one, and there's a little bit of it in the description, and I thought in the side chat that I'd put a couple things in, and I welcome you to do so as well. I already said the one thing. It was very powerful. Honestly, I'd have to watch, I only watched two of them, and I'd have to watch all three of them more than once probably, perhaps like sections of this and you, to actually fully grasp it. I don't know how it would work on the same device, and I'm hesitant to toggle, but actually I do know that I could move it into another available window and try and play a little bit of it, which would hopefully play okay in the device I'm recording it in. And then it would also take it out of that window, which would be great, even though he might be interested in that video. It's garden weather or seasons are short. So some of them, the less pleasant ones aren't. Went from 1 to 3 and then back to 1. I don't know if it's person that's been here the whole time or one of the other two. But I want to also, so I'm thinking of these videos I saw. I mean, and again, it's been about 5 or 6 times the one especially, and a couple times the other one, and then the other one's not really any yet. But where this guy, and I actually found myself putting myself at the top, which I don't do, and in a thread with a few. I just in the moment I was saying, no, just put my comment here, and then do my video. So that's what I did. And it was an older guy, and I think I've seen him in videos on that channel before, but I don't think that, and it doesn't hugely matter that he was older, because anybody can say great things. Kids, teenagers, we all have the power to say powerful things. And what's powerful to one person might not be to the other. That's also that. So 2 to 1. I do kind of want to replenish my drinks here. And that's kind of part of the topic too. But what he said, and now it's back to whether it's the one that was there before, otherwise welcome. Don't be shy. Don't worry. Your comments may distract me, and that may annoy me somewhat, but I also totally welcome them, and I will address them, I promise. So and now it's 3, welcome. What he said is that basically saying that your voice matters. And it's unique to you. He said something about, I can't remember his exact wording. I wish I could. It was on it. I hope that you're finished watching this video and maybe comment on it before you look at it, if you do. But it was on a channel I've seen occasionally, and now it's back to one, that's called Reflections of Life, I believe. And it's different people. They mostly seem to be elderly. Different people, talking about what they've learned. But one of the things he said that did stand out was he said that, our childhood matters. One's early years, and essentially. And he also spoke so to what some of the ideas I wanted to address in this are, and some of them I have. Because he said something essentially about this whole degree thing that I keep talking about. And when we look at this, I feel called to look at this. And I'm also feeling Linda's presence, possibly both of them. But, and the person comments and says, how did you know my name? I haven't said it yet. Or my username doesn't say it. But you're not the Linda I'm talking about. But I could talk with you, whether you're a Linda or not. Wouldn't that be absolutely wild? I kind of know her style, not to say she doesn't have more than one style, just like, people's personalities or angels or whatever. But I'd really never possibly know. So, so it was an art therapy related job, okay, or opportunity. And I don't know what and if it's a person I think is watching, well, here's the update. You're still welcome to call midweek. And yeah, don't be shy, because the truth of the matter is things can be a little bit quiet here. And I'm glad that you're watching. It does and doesn't say. I know to other people it may say, oh, is this channel any good? There's not much happening on it. And not to toot my own bugle, but I feel like there is a lot of good stuff that I post. And I think that it would be great for the viewers to reflect that to each other, to you know what I'm trying to say, and to me, for that matter. I felt it in one of my videos the other day, whether it's the same person or not, or who I think it is or not. The fact that, and it may sound weird, but to me, it makes sense. Well, it doesn't. Sometimes there's only one or two, sometimes just one, like now, who have been here for about 15, 20 minutes and are here and are watching. And I can only try my best to express how much that means to me. And it means that I'm doing something powerful and I'm doing something right at the capacity that the universe and the world is letting me do. And somebody else was briefly there. And yes, I maybe sounded a little bit emotional, but so what? If you don't feel emotions in life, are you living? Or are you just numb? And I'm not judging, because I have felt numb. And sometimes I've wished I was number than I feel. Which this keeps coming up. And before I spill it, like I did recently, but it didn't stick for that long, I don't think it would likely, well, if I went like this, talking with my hands and went like this, no, it maybe with more power it would, but it would just hit the front of the laptop and be fine. But I do want to put this away and get another water in a moment. But I woke up this morning. One other thing that happened. It's interesting, the serendipity and how these all kind of connect. But like, including the other person, when we consider the other person in the house, didn't even realize what was connecting. And, even said at one point that I kept mentioning something, and I was like, yeah, I have. And then my mind went to why in my head, and I completely didn't process whatever the short little bit of something he said. But I came to the room that the laptop was in. He had his coffee cup where he keeps it. Can't believe he was complaining about the other one. It wasn't taking up that much space on the desk. And it's a beautiful cup, but the handle's broken. Anywho, a beautiful cup. How beautiful can a cup be? Well, it has a nice flower on it and a neat background texture. And it's big. It's big, man. Big cups. Anyway, which does make me think of something else that before I started also came up 2 or 3 times, and I wondered what that would mean. I do want to keep this one under 2 hours, but I have the ability to wrap up, give myself 15 minutes, and start again. But somebody just tuned in. You've been here for a couple minutes. Welcome. Don't be shy in the chat or to say where you're watching from. I don't have the live chat displayed to show afterwards, so if there's any anxiety, it's not that active at the moment, but there's 2 of you here, and I'm very appreciative. So there wasn't very much coffee in the cup. And he comes to the stairs, and it says, "Would you like your coffee cup? There's not much in it." And he says, "No, I don't drink that much of it in the morning." And I know that the mornings are a bit rushed, and then he hops on his bike and goes to work. But I didn't know he didn't drink much coffee in the morning. Like he gives himself 30, 40 minutes, does a bit of a fitness thing, and I'm thinking, why wouldn't you? Like there's somebody I know of who kind of connects to this opportunity I'm hoping to get. Well, I don't think she drinks coffee. She just drinks tea. And, we can all be different. I don't understand people. I'm thinking Tracy now, and it's ironic because earlier I could have been reminded of another one if my head had went there, and she also likes to clean. Weirdo. Just kidding. Just kidding. But some people, and I wouldn't say that she's the other person in the house, yes. The other person I'm thinking, I don't know. I don't know her super well, but I wouldn't say that she's super bubbly. But even sometimes when I am feeling energetic, I know it's good. I'm going to feel burnt out at some point. And it is nice on the throat because it's warm, and I don't really like tea all that much. But one way that I understand not drinking coffee, although you can get energy from different sources, different ways, and even if it's decaffeinated tea, you're at least still getting sugar. And is it fully decaffeinated? I was talking about that with the person in the house recently about soda. I says, well, there's, and I don't remember if it was caffeine free or whatever, but it's like there's still aspartame, there's still a lot of sugar, and people should be very careful with energy drinks or any of it, really. And speaking of drink, okay, so I'll finish talking about the drinks, then I'll put that back, then I'll get back to the art, and we're covering topics. And that's not cold enough to help my throat. But the question is, do I want to be sipping on more coffee right now? Because the part that I do get is not wanting the energy. Not wanting the energy. When I mentioned earlier, sometimes I'd like to be numb. I don't think CBD oil is necessarily going to do it. Coffee is not going to get me there. Coffee is a stimulant, right? So welcome to the second viewer. And then we are about to run the dishwasher soon, so we're short on spoons. I had one that I'd used for peanut butter the other day, and it was sitting in a container on the microwave or on the counter. And then I grabbed another spoon because I didn't remember or fully process that, stuck it in some peanut butter, and now I'm out of spoons. And I haven't put sugar in my coffee. And I've got 2 spoons that have peanut butter on them, essentially. One from yesterday and one from today. And our dog, he's laying very relaxed on the chair over there, but he does this really cute thing where he'll stand up on his back legs and lick a peanut butter spoon, and you can get him to twirl and back up a little bit and this and that. And he really, brings us a lot of joy and love. But sometimes, we got to have it from each other too. We got to give it to ourselves. We got to give it to each other. But anywho, so I thought, okay, well, I can't, maybe I'm not meant to have coffee either. And then I thought, no, that's craziness. That's craziness. So I washed a spoon, and I've had not much, and I don't know if I should have more. I'm still very energized and passionate about this topic. I don't need it. The warmth of the beverage and possibly holding it, like, yeah, I do feel like a certain someone that I have kind of let fade out of my life may not have been that intelligent, but there is something to holding a warm beverage. And if you're watching this, I don't mean the person that said this. I don't mean to sound mean, but anyway, I can't remember the exact details, but anywho. So even though I've only used this cup a couple times and it's got some splashes on the outside that it makes it kind of sticky, should I have more coffee? I'm thinking of Ivone. I'm thinking he would say you need more sugar, even when you're hyper. And that reminds me of art group, and that reminds me of this painting. So, what else transpired this morning before I came downstairs for the first time? So yes, it kind of had an art theme already. And the other person came into the room, not knowing really any of this, and had this look on his face. I said, "What are you thinking about?" He says, "Oh, I'm just looking at that art." And I'd already selected a bunch of shirts. I'm wearing the one I usually wear because it's a good message and I like the soothing colors. Yes, I could say that it is associated with some videos that are, some more than not, that are really quiet, and a place that I got it from, which is a bit of a trigger. But I still love it, and I've had a few days at home where I'm not doing much, so I've been wearing it. I initially was looking for a shirt that I've worn in some of my videos, but it's been a while. I had ordered from my hometown in Ontario. There is a business that's a food place, not really a restaurant. They have outdoor dining. They're seasonal. They're seasonal. I don't know what they do, but they do well enough that they can be, I think. And they've been in business for 65, 70 years, something like that. And it's a walk up and order. They used to come to your car and take your order. I don't know if they still do that. I know, because that sounds really old fashioned, but they might. I haven't been there since 2019. And then before that, 2016 or 2014, and then before that, much longer, possibly since we moved in 2005 from there. Anywho, and my parents kind of knew the couple that ran this place, and it's very loved by the locals, by the people that stumble upon it or that travel in and make sure that it's one of the places they stop at. And during the pandemic, and I wasn't super close with them, I kind of knew her a little bit better, but during the pandemic, I guess they had to close. And yes, I'm feeling emotions, but that's okay. I'm okay, and it's healing, and I hope you will agree. They had to close. And one day I was online, I don't remember how long after, and I found out that the husband had took his life. And I summon it to be summarized. I imagine that it's probably because they had to close for a little while during the pandemic, his livelihood, and it could have happened during March. Yeah, that was just around when they probably would have been opening for the season. Had been taken. Some men struggle to talk about mental health. Sometimes, it's hard. It was uncertain for everybody, right? Welcome, second viewer again. He has a special needs son. And who knows what else he was going through. So they designed some shirts. And a couple months ago, I ordered one. And some of the proceeds, I think, some of the fee, and it was a small fee, went to the designer. I don't think any went to the family, but they honestly don't need it. Or at least the ones that, like him, his wife, and his daughters, I believe, operate it. I don't know if the son does. He's on the autism spectrum, I believe. So maybe he just does the grounds maintenance or whatever, before they open or when they close for the day. I mean, they're open pretty late. Anywho, and I had a conversation with the wife not super long ago on the phone. And I think I mentioned sometimes feeling the other side and saying that Mike was happy that they were keeping the business going. I think she's religious. Not that that means they can't coexist, but I think she was kind of like, oh, okay. She may have said interesting. And I didn't say more than that. He's visited a couple times. So anyway, I was looking for that shirt this morning. And sometimes I actually feel like we don't have many T-shirts, but we have a full closet. And I came out of the closet. Not fully gay, but I came out of the closet. But I did find some other shirts. And the whole art theme. And we have lots of art, including some behind furniture and along the top of the closet on a ledge. And then actually I went and looked in the one closet because I wasn't sure I was finding anything. I think that's where I found this. And some of it's so jam-packed in there I could barely even get it out anyway. But that's a topic for another time. But it's interesting that this came from that room, although did this. No, but that doesn't mean it's not Linda's. So this Linda, you can notice that I have a podcast from a few weeks ago with a specific person's name in it. She has since passed away. She was an art mentor. She worked in anti-bullying. She was in the States. I'm in Canada. But she knew somebody that I knew. And one time, I actually felt her spiritual presence not long ago. It was the only time. And I think I'm about to feel it again. And so that was mentioned in that video. Still very much value you the both of you being here and anybody else. And your comments as well if you want to put them. I know you're just listening and trying to keep up. So I understand that too. But try to multitask. Try to be a little ADHD if you are, right? A lot of us are. A lot of us are. But just like a lot of things, I think we kind of, whether it's signs and symbols from loved ones, whether it's our inner voice, it's like, no, I can't let myself go, start thinking certain ways. I've got my life to focus on, kind of thing. But when you are stuck in a rut and alone fairly often, you find you have no choice but to kind of, and that's, and I know that there's power in that. So that's why I've started to do videos again. This is a piece of art that we found in the closet. And I pretty quickly noticed what looked like the shapes of people. And even though there's not a lot of color, there is. Like in that area especially. And it's nicely framed. And there's another video that I did recently which has an interesting painting that might intrigue you, and I talk a little bit about that too. And it is not signed anywhere that I can see. And although I didn't know that person in person, she just communicated to my telepathy, I'm happy that you have a piece of my artwork. And that just solidified it. We were meant to be connected as souls, even if I'm in a different life form now, even if I don't know you well, my dear. Art and healing and doing things that are therapeutic to us is just that, so therapeutic. What does this make you think of, dear? Which I would have probably said anyway, but... And I know a little earlier when I found it, I did have a couple thoughts. I'm not sure if I'm having them now. I'm having more than a couple thoughts. What is a couple? I am poly. Not actively, but I am. And so I know it can be whatever somebody wants it to be. I mean, sometimes only in mind and in soul. I'm going to turn the radio down slightly, but she says, and that's just a reminder to you and the two that are watching. And it's interesting because the one that I did channel her for the first time, I think, somebody had tuned in. They were even chatting a little bit. And I do this time, though. I didn't have the device plugged in, and I didn't realize it. And suddenly things kind of froze up. and then the device restarted, and it had to be plugged in. And I was frustrated because I was having a good chat with somebody in the chat, and I think of another Ryan coming to mind now, and I don't know, and can't remember. Oh, I was wearing that thing that I had been wearing, and he thought it was some sort of dress or something. I said, "Well, I'm glad that you were okay if it had been, although it wasn't." And we lost both the viewers then. But you know what? You both were here for a while, so I can't complain. And I know it took some interesting twists there. Like we went from channeling to Bali. Because I am my own unique person with my unique voice and experiences. You know, clothing doesn't change who I am. Although if I took that to one aspect, and the person that just tuned in, did you unintentionally leave and come back? Have you been here for a while, or have you just tuned in? I welcome you to this free-spirited, healing, artsy podcast. And if you know, also to the side chat, you know, don't worry about what you've missed, and maybe you've already been here. It doesn't indicate, just a number and a symbol, unless you comment. I do feel like my bladder's. I mean, it's been an hour and a half, and I do want to adjust my beverages. I still don't know whether I'm going to be drinking more coffee right now. And I'm hearing Linda say, "Do it, dear." And I'm not talking about drinking coffee. As somebody just tuned in, I would really love to know how much I feel like I should recap, but whatever. You know, this is well into the video. I don't know. But I do have to do those other two things. But I want to wait till somebody else tunes in. I know that I'm holding their attention and their interest because both of them went now. Although somebody else, it says one again. And possibly even having a bit of a nice chat. And then I won't feel like I'm, you know, at least I'll know that there's somebody here that knows that I just have to step away for a moment and they know what's going on. I can put it in the chat. Sometimes I do when I just feel like, you know, like that's the best option. But welcome. Sorry, I've been rambling for an hour and a half. And you left. Linda, not welcome. Just kidding. You're not welcome. And I know that I'm just a stranger on the internet to most people that see this. And I know that I appear as a man. And I don't know how you identify. But we're all strangers until we're not, right? We're all strangers until we get to know each other. And again, as I said in one of my recent videos, we're not meant to know everybody. But we shouldn't shy away from knowing people either, because we never know what they could do for our life. And also what we could do for theirs. And it's okay. It's lovely when it is mutual and reciprocal. And I said that what is the other day? I said, you know, it doesn't feel like Graceland because I mean, it mostly feels balanced. Maybe a little bit more on me, as would be expected. I don't know. I've got the time. I need the purpose. I don't need to. They do pay for the thing. I just don't know how to line that. Tried to ask him about the kind of getting presents. He made it sound like it wasn't that difficult, but for me, it kind of was. But anyway. But what was it? No, it wasn't that. It was terrible because that's only in person, I think, where they said that they can help you through the process. And they probably pay for it too. So I don't know. I don't know if either of those are still on the table. And I don't know if this particular thing is. Uh, I am hearing the music kind of loud. All I've had is a scoop of peanut butter this morning. No wonder I'm kind of hungry. But this is kind of also a bit of a day in the life. It might help with my slight feelings of congestion. Stopping podcasting might also, but why would I do that? Like why would I do that? And I am kind of feeling that moment. I think that music is very, very light, so hopefully it's all good. Somebody just tuned in. I would like to. I feel like I would like to draw your attention to the very short couple comments that I have in the chat there. If you haven't, well, I'm going to put something there. And if nobody's here and their eye happens to go there and notice it and they read it, then good. I thought it was already past the 1:30. Rolling about an hour and a half. Don't feel it's not because they likes or whatever. Maybe I should do a part 2, but don't want to redo the setup. I have to quickly go upstairs and also replenish my beverages. So that's one thing I'm sending through. I said about an hour and a half, and then I did say quickly. So I'm going to keep that there and go do so. And then we'll resume. I think that's what I'm feeling called to do, and I want to remember this as well, and anything that the dog might be able to get, and this there, and there this, there, dear, there. Was that you or was that me or Sadie or Linda? And it's always cool to when I find out that my loved ones have met each other in spirit, or at least my connections, um, because both of these women use dear and darling. Darling, dear more so. Um, and so I'm not trying to come across in a I don't know what you'd call it kind of way, and I'd be curious, but you'll laugh. But I mean, even if one person told me this is how that came across, telling us to go look at the chat, forceful, suggestible, neither. That's one person's opinion. And all of our opinions matter, and it's what we do with them. It's whether we are using them to create positivity and kindness or to stir the pot, right? Although I would say every now and then maybe a little bit of pot stirring is okay. A little bit of pot smoking, just kidding. But well, we got two people. But at the same time, I think time and place, and I don't know how to say it differently than that. 2 to 1. But so I'm curious how it comes across for me to say I'd like to draw your attention to the side chat. How that and it seems like anytime I do it, the person leaves. But then sometimes when I don't do it, and then it says one again. So either that one of them has came back, or somebody else is here. Either way, welcome. One of the things that it does say in 4 lines, whatever. That's what again though. Some people are like, "Oh, I'll see this later. It seems interesting. It's something that I'd love to be able to sit and process later." Or, "Oh my goodness, this is a little bit long. I've missed a lot," and not know. That's why it's important to bring your attention there, because I mentioned that kind of thing. But there's a big part of me that doesn't want to have to redo the setup. Like I say, not so much this. This is going to stay like this as long as I keep it like this. But the title, the description, the thumbnail, the side chat, I have built this up to what it is at this point. And so I kind of want to keep rolling. I kind of feel like if I was gone for 10 minutes and then rolled for another, so that would be, if I get to this in like 2 minutes, that would be 137 to about 140 something. I don't know. What I could do is say part 2 to the previous one. But somebody tuned in and they might be like, I can spend some time here. I don't care that you're an hour and a half in. And as it says in the side chat, I'm going to turn this down a little bit. It suddenly seems kind of loud, and I'm worried that YouTube may hear it. Nothing's right, I'm torn. I'm on. This is how I feel. Oh, now I'm shaking. On the floor. Illusions never change into something. Anyway, I don't know if I'm fully feeling that song, but I am. I'm torn. And he's going to be curious how this did because he knew that I brought out a bunch of shirts and a couple pieces of art. And the easiest way, since there's not been a lot of engagement, I don't know. I don't know if I could summarize it, to be honest. How do you summarize a life? How do you summarize an hour and a half or more video about life and all of its ebbs and flows and intricacies? How do you? How do you? That is a very interesting question, and I'm so glad because it's been sporadic. I'm being completely honest in saying, whether it was you or not, that there has been a couple of occasions where there's been somebody here for 15 or 20 minutes. They may not have commented if it's who I think it is because I know them from an agency where I've told them about my YouTube channel, but they may feel like they don't know if they should comment on it until we talk next, but the viewer left. But I want my little side note that says about the hour and a half mark. And I don't want to go too far from that. But I really want to, and there's just maybe 3. And you can tell they're from me. But you know what? The right person won't care. The right person will be like, well, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of likes or comments on this video, but that was a very interesting and intriguing question. I'd like to answer it. As we get 2 people in. Welcome. Only 2 at the moment. If you feel this is an interesting and intriguing question and you'd like to answer it, feel free to do so in the chat. I know it might not be an easy one to answer, and you can get as in-depth as you want, but it'll give you something to do while I quickly go up to the washroom and replenish my drink. I was going to say. I don't know if people would know what AQ. So we have someone that just tuned in. I mean, I have to leave the screen very briefly. And so I've got a few things that I put in the side chat, and I'm adding one other thing. They're all fairly short. I want to suggest you see you left, whatever. Question. How would you summarize your life? Well, there's the brackets. There's the 2 capitals. Hopefully that stands out. I'm going to do my part. If anybody sees this and puts a comment, I mean, I do understand that there's a description that was semi-wordy. There was some comments here, although they're not that wordy. that I put. There's no other distractions, at least. I kind of mentioned, I mentioned the two things that stood out, and it was interesting because the one video, the guy had mentioned that, like, a piece of poetry or whatever, and then I was, I guess, setting up my video or whatever, and I didn't fully process it. And then he said, what stood out most to him in it? And then he said, and I said it earlier, about us all having a worthy voice to hear, whether that's in writing or unfortunately nobody's here to hear me say that. So I'm going to do a couple things that I can multitask doing while I go away from the screen briefly. One, I'm going to see if Linda has anything else to say. And depending on what she says and encourages, this could get very interesting. Not to toot my own bugle. I already think it has been very interesting. But it could become even, in a good way. In a good way. At least I would say so. But so I'm going to see if there's anything from that. And I'm going to see if I can summarize. I mean, I'm suddenly being reminded of speaking of 2019 and when I traveled to my hometown, and I think I mentioned this, not in the Father's Day ones, but in one of the recent podcasts, and I was speaking about visiting a couple graves, my dad's being one of them. And I said, it's been a journey. But I would say that pretty much would summarize most people's lives, especially the older you are, but kind of in general. I mean, life is a journey, a wonderful journey. I'll be there when the world's up turning. I'll be there when the world is through. In the end, I want to be standing at the... Anyway, no. But anyway, so, yeah. So, I mean, that, would be an example of, where a simple statement, like, I want you to, and I'm going to try and do the same, and I'm not forcing you, but I'd really love it if you did this. Consider the question. It's also written in the bottom comment in chat here from me. How would you, and feel the feels in this too. Feel the feelings. How would you summarize, and you left. I, at 1:43:25 mark, have to go up from the screen for about this will stand up because I can't pause a live stream. I can't pause a live stream. Apparently, although when I'm not on the screen for a few minutes, I won't be saying anything, so you should be able to focus on the question just fine, I would hope, whether you're using headphones or not. But and I've stayed on the screen for quite a while. But yeah, okay, so I've done the setup. I've put two really short ones that may stand out. One had a number in it. There was two capitals. I still don't know whether. I think I might have a little bit more. It's not a bad coffee, and I think it'll help my throat. And next to the question, it says the mic on one side and it says that he's on fine, but otherwise it doesn't seem to say. So I'll have to remember all the things I'm trying to do right now. I don't know what else is on the screw there. All the things that I'm trying to do right now and encouraging you to try to do as well. I've done the best setup I think I can in the side chat. And then hope not. And nobody was really here much while I was saying it, but I also want to give a bit of an interesting visual because that may also keep you here processing it. Some people will just say, that's such a mess. Life, I have a book somewhere and I've seen it recently, but I don't know where it is and I don't know if I should flash that or not. Life is messy sometimes. I don't think it's ready. I want to make sure with all this stuff that I have there, just double make sure the dog may go and look once I go upstairs. He looks pretty calm, but he does that sometimes. Do I have anything here he could get into? Well, there are these walnuts, but you'll see that I have a very kind of curious and kind of unique question in the side chat you've left, so whatever. But yes, I haven't done the thing yet, so I'm going to go do the thing. Setting the scene, the importance of water. You know, we have a lot already in our body. Maybe that's but the importance of hydration and that life source. There, how's that for a scene? How is that for a scene, everybody? Have you seen everybody in your life? Of course you haven't. The long and winding road. Where's that? On here. Oh, right there. Okay, yeah. Okay. Oh, he got back to me. Okay, well, can be in the background, although of course you're going to want to chat. Remember, but no, I welcome you to chat. I don't put it in the video, but just yeah. I am pretty pleased off screen, but talk to the comment in the chat. I'm coming back. I'm just kidding. Then you're just sitting there, taking it easy, eh? Easy taking. The coffee is just finishing heating, and then I will be here. Anybody here? Anybody answering questions? No? How rude. Here. Here. Have that open on the browser, actually. I think that's actually a nice breeze that it doesn't have to look like. But I was thinking I needed to get a breather, but I just got one. Not an outside kind of one. I'm hearing voices, not an outside kind of one necessarily. I'm thinking that there's just some people. School's supposed to be up, but teenagers are the loudest ones. Just kidding. But we all have a voice, and we should be loud and proud. So for anybody, 2 people just came in. I'll repeat that. We all have a voice that we should be loud and proud with, and we should just try our best to make a positive impact with it, whether it's out loud or in writing, any about that. And some people, they really do. They don't feel, but either both the backs of it, they don't have a strong self-esteem. And I get that. And I'm not judging it. And you both laugh. You're like, you may get it and not judge it all you want, but like, I can't do deep. I can't, I'm worried about being judged about what I say. I don't want to say it. I do, but I don't. 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 It's possible, folks. I've had those feelings at times. I know other people do. That's what that is. But I had posed a question before I left. I don't think very many people have seen it because, there have been points in this video, which is one of my longer ones. I'm really actually tempted because I don't know if I've ever let it get to the 2-hour mark. Not that there aren't some that aren't, but I'm not, and I've seen like long videos. Even my improvisational thing a while ago, like I mean, most of them are music things though, like I don't know. No, I can't remember. Wow, there is what's his face, but he's popular from the get-go. But sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not, and it didn't mean to like he is Matt, and that's where it's at. Aside from here, I've talked positively about him in a couple of my other videos. He does have a name. I understand that, but at the same time, we're more than just our names, right? We're more than just. We're about what we say, what we do, and the legacy that leaves. I could do a video, or I could restart and just have a lot less to kind of process. Like, you'll see the description if you're meant to, when you're meant to. You'll see the side chat if you're meant to, when you're meant to. You're seeing this because I feel you're meant to. And I was just about to that's when they left. And some people get easily on the defense too. And I've been like that at times. And I mean, again, there will be some people like that potentially, and perhaps, how do you combine those words, who will say, don't tell me what I'm meant to do. I get to decide that. Or something around that line. And you do. And this is where it just becomes free spirited. Like I know because what's his face has had 6. Again, I did it. It's just something I do. I talked about it briefly in one of my other recent videos. It's like when the name doesn't come quick enough, or it's just it's like saying thingamajig, you know. But we're all something. We're all somebody. Want to be more than just anybody. I want to be a somebody. Tried to get that out there. It didn't work. I'm tempted. Whoops. I'm tempted to start a part 2 because it's getting long. And then I think about Matt. He's the one that comes to mind. I actually noticed Ernestine had one that was over just a little over an hour, which I haven't seen many of her. I've seen about 6 or 7, and I think that was the only one I've seen over an hour. It happens. It happens. And some people may look at it and say, well, yeah, and we all fear judgments. And that was a topic I was going to have too, because I'm sitting here thinking some people may say this was over 2 hours long and there was hardly any activity on it. And there should be for something that long. I agree. But I'm still going to sit here and say that does nothing to the quality of the content, just because there's not. I'm going to try and take some steps to do so, because as much as other people may be saying it, I'm kind of saying it as well. Just to repeat, in case you weren't here a few moments ago to hear it. First of all, I do want to say, because I think that it's important, not that the rest of it isn't, but at times within this long video, there have been people that have stayed here for about 20 minutes. One I may have known from an agency, and they may just wait till next time we talk to share their thoughts. And the other one may come back and say something later, or at least have been impacted, because if you're sitting here watching something for 25 minutes, especially, not to toot my own bugle, because there's lots of good content out there. I do agree with that. It's interesting just thinking about the ebbs and flows of this video, actually, and the things that I've brought up, and all that. What I'm doing, just to let you know, as you've just tuned in, and again, the low count, like I say, there's been some people that were here for a while, may come back. It says nothing about the quality. You're here. I feel you're meant to be. What I'm doing is kind of end the viewer left. Again, that may not mean that they don't care about what I'm doing. It may mean that this sounds interesting, this sounds deep, I'm intrigued, I'll watch it later. That's my hope. Okay, I may have wanted to go to whatever was next in those tabs, but I did intend to use this window, so that'll have to do. I guess I don't have to do it in this form. Would I rather do it in this form? I don't know what form I'd rather do it in. And one is no better than the other, but there's the name Bobby, and that speaks to me. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to decide if I want to start a part 2 because I have the time and I know that there's still some things that I either know I want to express or might still need to express. And this has gotten long, but there are longer videos up on YouTube, and as far as I know, they are fine with that. But I do realize people might kind of, you know, say, why isn't this doing better then? And I'd like to know as well, you know. But I am enjoying what I'm putting into it. There have been people that have been here for about 15, 20 minutes. They may come back and comment. I know that I know someone that wants to check it out and is also sick, and I know somebody else who's also kind of not been feeling well and might randomly tune in. I only know we're on here, but um, um, oh, okay, sorry. Uh, just quickly sending something to somebody. It's kind of a long word, but it's only 2 words. So 2 long words, longest words. But you know, at the same time, there's somebody here who's been here for two or 3, almost 5 minutes, maybe now. And although you might come back if I started a part 2 and then you leave. So I didn't know what that meant. Yeah, maybe you very much were thinking like you. Well, I'm meant to be here and I'm meant to be in this one, but if you're starting a part 2, maybe I'm not. It's like what I told myself the other day, and I mean, I got those things. I think if I was to do it, but I don't know where to send it. I can't remember when I thought about redoing it what made me decide maybe not. I can't remember. This is the one called Legacy Song, ironically. Woo, baby, woo. I'm just reading something and I'm feeling various feelings. That and because they're various, not that I can't manage that sometimes, I am struggling to put it into words. But what I will say is I had posed a question and I asked it of myself within this, and I haven't said my answer yet, so I'm going to. And I do feel like it came from me in the bureau left. Like, I'm not here to answer questions. I don't know. Should put I know put words in people's mouth, but you know they're not here. You know, so they're not saying it themselves. You know, I don't know. But before I forget what it is, honestly, that one is more from the previous one. Okay, so it's really just that one. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm trying to decide if I'm going to just keep rolling this one for a bit longer, or if I want to do a part 2. If I do a part 2, there's a part of me that wants to take some of the stuff that's in the chat here that I put. I mean, if it had been not me, I don't know if I would have done it. But I mean, not saying that what other people say isn't valuable, but uh, there are things that I feel especially connect to the content, you know, and as the comments should, as best as you know can be, or not as best as no pressure to that, like just as they should. I might have a slightly different title, though. I don't know if I want to call it the same thing, even though it's part 2. People could look at it and say, okay, what was just, I guess it'd be below this, because the part 2 would be the most recent one, and then that one goes with this one, and it's 2 hours long. Some people may say. So that's, but if I keep this one rolling, then it's going to be more than that. And people's jaws would drop to the floor, and they, just kidding. It'd be funny if it's rolling. Okay, well, I took some of them, and honestly, when I put it in this notepad thing, it doesn't look as long as I thought it was. But we have 1 and 1 turned to 2. So, and I know that the chat's on because I got stuff there, and that 2 turned to 1. But anyway, but that is the thing about kind of dividing it into 2 videos, that if people miss the first part, well, then they might miss the first part. And if they don't, and they find it, then that too. I can do the setup pretty quickly. There are certain things that may come up. Some I can foresee, some I don't, that I wouldn't mind being embedded kind of deeper into the videos, just because they're and welcome. Okay, so I know I've done that. Okay, so I'm okay. Sayonara instead, I guess. So with that thought, what's that telling me? Let me just sit for a moment. I mean, I can't say if somebody tunes in and comments, but if they tell me, yes, for sure, I can come if you start the second one, and I'll chat with you there, and I put the same settings, then that's what we'll do. But let me just sit and think for a moment. How much more do I actually want to cover? All of it. Everything. I'd like to focus on this art piece a little bit more. Why these are here? Not because of diabetes. Why these are here? Because I think I was trying to decide if I wanted to have them. I don't know if I still do. I've kind of mentioned the shirts, but I haven't gotten into depth with those. Would I want that to be kind of near the beginning of a part 2? And this maybe a little less so. That maybe, because people that have done you wrong, I mean, yes, you can forgive them, and some of them won't learn quickly or whatever. But I will talk about those experiences from time to time, whether because I need to heal from them or find it helpful, and because maybe the other person needs to hear it too. And they may not, unless they tune in live, thinking, well, this is still rolling. But again, I know how it looks, and I judge it too. I know I shouldn't. I know the truth. Other people may not. But I've been rolling for 2-something hours, and I hate to bring attention to it, but there's been no reactions. But like I did say that I didn't know if I wanted to. Maybe I come up with another intriguing title, and it happens rather easily, folks. Okay, so I said what I want to cover. I'm thinking of putting those away, actually. I don't know if they still need to be here, but maybe they do. And I guess I do, because I don't feel like I have much choice. I have to just kind of go through the various feelings of living a life and being human, because I don't really feel that I, that I could do something like that to myself. And I remember not long ago, I said that to the other person at home, and they got kind of emotional. And I said, hey, that was supposed to sound like a good thing. But I guess in the back of that, even though I didn't say a lot about it, was kind of the message of, I wish I could, though. Sometimes, Um, um, so I asked myself again, and I have that note there with the answer 13 minutes ago, right? Fortunately, it wasn't saying that they knew my dad. But I do sense my dad's briefly here saying, even though I passed young, I'm so glad that we still know each other. We still have a connection and a bond. And you know that I love and accept you as you are. And I hope that others do too. So that's real quick. Okay. Um, I did see a piece of art that was kind of interesting. I thought, I don't know. But then the video that I was showing before I started this kind of sort of related. And not that I was hugely against the idea, just didn't know about putting it in the video. But, and again, I kind of quoted, okay, so again, I asked myself the three questions that are helping me decide whether I make a part two or not. One, am I okay with retitling it something different? Well, as much as I don't like to make people feel like, you tune in for long enough, you know what this is about, you know, or any of it. Well, I mean, or at least get an idea. But, some people like to be able to figure out a mystery or whatever. Like, what does SI stand for? So I kind of do want to put that in there again. But at the same time, other people may be annoyed it's so vague. But I don't want to spell it out. This is a shared channel, and I don't want to spell it out. I mean, you know, um, and these two things that is due to, well, what about the shirts? Could I do this? I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the shirts in its own separate video. That's how that sounded funny, but I brought a bunch of shirts out from the closet earlier, as I mentioned earlier, and the person was briefly there. I was looking for a particular one, found a bunch of other ones that usually give me kind of an initial kind of response because the things they say on them it trigger my mind in a certain way. And it is quite sunny out now. It was a bit cloudier, but yeah, but at least I'll be in the shade and I'll be on the bike in the breeze or I'll be inside. So I'm going to put these, I think. Ray's like, yeah, I'm here, but I'm just here hanging out, because I got a bit of time, and you're my friend, you're my buddy. He says, I don't mind. I don't say much as long as you don't. I do and I don't. I always appreciate when you say stuff, and nobody else is saying much at the moment. So I'm going to do this and then this separately. So sounds good. Sounds good, bud. So, welcome. So I'm going to be addressing first this. Oh, but should I first address the question that I asked? I asked it in the side chat. I had to go briefly off screen, and I didn't do it when I was doing the stuff with the beverages downstairs, the coffee and the water, and then so I could have taken as long as I needed, but I didn't want to take super long, and I got an interesting answer. How would I personally, and there's also a second part to this question. The person was there for a few minutes, but there's also a second part to this question.
I'm gonna go and have some dinner, and once I get back, I'll be sure to comment and also check out the video, okay?
So I feel like that's a fairly strong guarantee. And I think that I've answered for myself what I was trying to figure out. So I'm going to go with that, and it may be long. One thing I might ask him, and this I say, can you put that? Can you select those comments? And I know what I want to ask, so I'll wait to see how it happens. And that spot was already there. I asked myself, and whether you know me very well or not, and there was somebody there for a few seconds, whether you know me very well or not, I'm very kind of curious to think, how would you? No, I'm gonna. Okay, I'd really like there to be somebody here as I ask.
I'm having some rice with some chicken stew. And yeah, just trying to keep it light over here. And can you let me know if your live stream is happening in an hour, 2 hours, or so? I'll be definitely available for a few minutes because I'm a little bit busy with work over here. But I will definitely try my absolute best to make time and chime in as well. And I'll also keep it anonymous.
Um, the connection is kind of coming and going itself, which is almost less annoying than continuing to try, especially since it changes the order that it shows. It would be good for something this long, which is obviously, out to the internet for quite a long time. It would be great if at least got, one or two likes. And I know to a lot of people, they're going to be like, that's not a very big number. To me, it matters. It varies. Some content does better than others, and it really has nothing to do with length. It's kind of luck of the draw in some ways. But to me, it does matter, you know? Um, and it's true. This is true. This is true. This is very, very true. Um, uh, well, more people after the fact may watch it, even if they didn't hear it live, if it's shorter. That's true. I was gonna say, well, it doesn't really, you know, whether they come in while it's live or afterwards. Even though it hasn't completely shown, like some people come and they just don't stay very long. Anybody that I don't know, I'm so torn. But I do feel like I kind of want to address a couple of I don't know. I'm trying to be thoughtful. I'm trying to decide obviously what I want to do in my intent. And I kind of have. I kind of have. I kind of want to talk about this that I stumbled across, and I kind of have with that too. And there was somebody briefly there. They didn't stay. I don't know. I've got those things all set up. like I say, to most people, some people won't notice or care. Other people will, and they'll tell themselves things, and I would as well. It's a 2 hour video. It may or may not have one like. What the heck? But if I do enough shorter content, and I do sometimes, then people will hopefully be like, this guy is posting things of interesting interest and value and has me curious and of worth. And so I don't know why his long video didn't do very well, but I have time to watch this one, and it's great. The thing is I don't know exactly what's going to transpire, so I don't know. But does it really matter? Like I sense Linda saying, what will transpire will be meant to transpire, and who it's meant to touch, heal, and speak to, it will, dear. And some of the people that don't stay very long, maybe maybe they would benefited from it, but we can't make them. You know what I mean? And that's fine. We have to accept that. But Ray is here and Linda's here, and that's an interesting combination. And Ray is saying that she never felt she was much of an artist. She obviously loved singing, uh, but Linda's been helping her with that. It's always interesting to hear when they've met each other, and I like to hear it. I don't really try and force it. I feel like it was just organically told to me that is the case. Um, you could look at this and think they're climbing, they're going through a wall and going to climb upwards, stairway to heaven. Welcome, welcome. I've been going back and forth between whether I want to start a part 2 of this or just keep this one rolling. So far, I'm just keeping this one rolling. And what I'm doing is, but people, but seriously, I can tell myself all I want. Well, they should still be interested. They should still be intrigued. They shouldn't care if they've missed 2.5 hours. Um, um, and there's a lot of reading and they're meant to, all the things I said in the side, which some of them are going to put in the next one, I think. But some people will look at it and maybe it's part of the FOMO. They're going to be like, oh, I've missed so much of this. Like it'd be pointless to watch it. Not the case, but so I think that's telling me I'll just be methodical.